I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Metal Rules, we are speaking with Sascha Gerstner of Helloween to talk about the band's return to the US and Canada this spring as part of their ongoing United Forces World Tour. Sascha, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. I've been watching a bunch of your live videos that you guys did in Europe. What a tremendous stage show. I got to say, it looks fantastic. Kudos to you guys.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. I think the pumpkin is doing its job there.
Yes.
Being like such an important element for the band, and now we brought it on stage. Yeah, thank you, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with the lighting theatrics and the what was going on behind the band too. That was really incredible.
Yeah,
Tremendous visual experience going on.
yeah, it's so nice that you have nowadays these possibilities instead of just hanging a backdrop or something, which normally would be the album artwork and which is pretty static.
Mhm.
But with those LED panels, you can do stuff for each song, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love that stuff, and we did it with the Pumpkins United tour before that,
Mhm.
and it worked out well. So we thought we might bring it back on this tour as well.
Yeah, you actually have some 3D animation going on while the videos are going. It's pretty neat. I was
Exactly.
very impressive.
It's
It was really impressive. How
and you
long
know
did
what?
it, what's that?
The
Sorry.
cool, you know what? The cool thing is that we have two fans in Spain who have become our friends as well, who started out doing this. They did the Hell book a couple of years ago. They came up with this idea to make this book about the band, and then later on they started to design stuff like 3D animations and stuff. And then we were just saying like, well, you guys should do our live animations as well. Now we have these two big Halloween fans creating all these animations, which is a pretty nice background story, I think.
Yeah. I was watching a video and it was taken, I guess, from the balcony. I think it was in London. And it was great to
Hmm.
see
Yeah.
also, not to say it was choreographed, but everybody kind of knew their places and their nuances, when to move back, when to go on the back risers, when to move forward. It was really, really well
Hmm.
done. And then the visuals tying to it. I was enthralled by it. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see this when you guys come to New York City.
Yeah. It feels so natural when we're going on stage, you know. They for us as a band, it's always about the energy and the vibe
Yes.
and not taking things too seriously. And then a lot of people think that we're having like this choreography on stage, but it isn't. It's just happening naturally. We just look at each other. We just go with the flow, and for some reason, it looks like there's some choreography going on, um, which is nice because then you can tell that you finally became a band again and doing this for a long time together.
Yeah.
It's
With
really nice.
with six guys on a smaller stage, is it a little bit more challenging? I mean, when I saw, I think it was like I said, it was the London show, and it was a
Hmm.
very wide open stage. Does it get a little more challenging when it's a little tighter up there?
Oh no, the only part where it's challenging is when we're having like smaller, like normally we have. I think we didn't have that in London, but the bigger audiences we play to, we have a catwalk,
Oh,
and that
wow.
sometimes can be challenging because then if it's like a big catwalk, it's fine, but if it's a smaller one, and then you have like three guitar players there and then singers coming in, and then it might be a bit challenging, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. Other than that, as I said, it's we just go with the flow. It's a great vibe in a band, and it's nice to see that we can um put everything in harmony on the stage together. You know.
And you can't play small places with the pumpkin drum riser. It's just not possible. Because that needs its own
Yeah,
stage
it's
unto itself.
that's true. That's true. I mean, the last tours since the reunion happened were quite big um um venues, you know. So we had played a lot of arenas and big halls and stuff like that, so it was easy for that. Um and and there, I think the London place was one of the smaller ones, and it
Wow.
still worked out, you know.
Yeah.
So um since we don't use like all these guitar cabinets and all that stuff, so you can save a lot of space for other things, and
That's true.
I think it might work out in most clubs as well. And but also depending on the height, if you like, I'm guessing when we're playing in the US, there will be a few clubs where we can't bring that because of the height of the stage. We have a drum
Yes.
riser that is like 3 meters high or something.
Yes.
Then then that might be a bit tough, but in general, it should work everywhere.
Oh, that's pretty cool. When was the last time you guys were in the United States?
Oh man, um, it was pre-pandemic, I think.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was with the Pumpkins United tour. I think it must have been in 18, I
Okay.
think.
Wow.
2018 was the last time, I think, yeah.
So this must be exciting to come back.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole touring thing, like after the pandemic happened, um, us releasing the album in the pandemic was the perfect timing, but going on tour again, it just feels great. It's
Yeah.
amazing, and coming back to the States, it's always a pleasure. It's not very common for European bands to come to the States, so there's a lot of gratitude there that we are able to play in the US.
Yeah, I speak with a lot of bands from Europe also, and it's a lot of challenging with the visa. It's very expensive. It's tough to
Yeah,
coordinate, and
exactly.
unless they get on a big tour, they can't come over.
Yeah, it's not easy to do that, and you need a very stable fan base
Yeah.
that you can play good shows, and we're just lucky because this band is around for a long time,
Mm.
and we have very good fans in the US, so we always had a chance to come back and play, and we're just grateful for that. I mean, we have a couple of those areas like in the world, like Japan as well. Japan, US, all these countries. Not everybody is able to go to, So
Yeah.
it's a blessing to do that. Yeah, nice.
You guys are extremely well rehearsed. You guys are extremely talented guys. I was just wondering, how long does it take you guys to get up to speed to do a tour like this? Understanding that you've been doing it
Oh,
a while, but to come to the US and to be prepared for the US audiences, is there anything you got to do prepare?
the good thing is we're going to play this huge Monsters of Rock tour in Latin America before that.
Okay.
We're going to play with Kiss and Scorpions and
Yes.
Deep Purple. So this is going to be a great tour, and so we should be in pretty good shape for the US tour as well. But 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 being prepared for a tour is like we're very old school. Nowadays a lot of bands they rehearse at home and then they fly to some festival and play a show. And we still have a lot of rock and roll going on within the band, so we still need time to rehearse, and we also not we're not living at the same place, so we're going to meet beforehand and rehearse for a couple of weeks
That's
before we go on longer tours. Yeah, it's necessary, and it's also fun. I think it's a great fun to get in a vibe, because when you're at home for a longer time, we have like long breaks within tours sometimes, and so it's nice to be back and see each other and catch up,
yeah.
and before we go on tour. It's good for the vibe as well, not only for preparation and musical wise.
I think that's a smart idea. Yeah, I think it's the camaraderie too. Hey, what have you been up to? What are you doing? This way, it's
Yeah,
you're
exactly,
all caught up,
exactly.
and then you hit the ground running.
Yeah, and as I said before, for us, it's all about vibe and energy, and for some reason, it's a family. You have to get back to that group feeling, and then it's you can bring better energy on stage. That's what we're believing in.
You guys seem like a very close-knit band for having so many members. Is there any pre-show ritual that you guys do before you hit the stage?
I think everybody has his own ritual, and there are things that are repeating a lot. Some people um, like to drink a glass of wine to warm up, and I for instance, I like to listen to some music other than metal
Mhm.
before I go on the stage and play metal. So and Danny would join me with that. you know. So everybody has his own ritual, but
Right.
we're in there together. Most of the times we have two dressing rooms, and you have like, you know, we have smokers on the band as well who would smoke in
Yeah.
their dressing room before the stage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I think everybody has his own ritual, but there's no like a group ritual. We would hug each other, you know, before we go on stage. That's what
Yeah.
we always doing, like wishing each other a great show. And yeah.
You know, with so many great Halloween albums, I think you guys are one of the rare bands that could go out and play some more obscure tracks for the diehard fans, and they really would love it.
Mm.
Any surprises planned for deeper cuts on this tour?
Um, well, I mean, nowadays with internet and YouTube going on, it's very hard to have a surprise ready, you know. That would mean that yeah, you know, because you play a show once and then everybody knows what's coming up.
Right.
The other thing is, we realized, because we experimented a lot, and even before the reunion and everything, and then you make like 10 fans, you would make them happy, but the rest of the people would stand in the audience with question marks above their heads, you know. So it's very, very tough, and also with such a long history and albums, it's very tough to create set lists. And
Yeah.
then, for instance, when we were playing now these shows with Kiss and Scorpions, we would play 60 minutes, and that is already tough, because then for sure you want to put into those 60 minutes like most famous songs and the most rocking songs that would make sense for the vibe, you know.
Right.
And also for people who don't know Halloween yet, or not as much. And then with our own shows, we have the same problem because of time, you know. We have like 2 hours. Some venues have strict curfew, so you can't play longer than 2 hours. And then on in US shows, we bring Hammerfall with us, who are also going to play a big set.
Hmm.
And like with a long history and a lot of albums, it makes it really hard to put in obscure tracks for the 10 super diehard fans who would be happy, you know. It's
Yeah.
really tough.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I always thought as an artist, you're up there and you're concentrating on what you're playing and, you know, keeping everything going. So you're actually able to see in the audience if a song isn't going over well, huh?
Yeah, you're not seeing that like instantly in the faces. It's more of a vibe.
Okay.
You can feel if it's a good vibe, if it's a good, like, especially with the music we're doing,
Yeah.
it's a lot of positivity and humor going on, and there's a positive vibe. And if something doesn't match, like when you do, for instance, we had a couple of albums where we had some really dark tracks in there.
Uh-huh.
When you play those tracks live, there's certainly a different vibe going on, and that's not a typical Halloween vibe for live show, you know. Like,
Right.
people come to our shows because they want to have a good time, and
Right.
then they probably want to forget about their daily life, so they just want to be entertained. And that's what our band is all about, you know. It's about the positivity and party feeling
Yep.
almost, you know. So you can clearly tell if there's a song that doesn't match to that feeling, you know. And
Right.
because then you have a different vibe in the audience, and that also transports onto the stage, you know.
I get it. No, I truly do. What you talk about your staple of songs that you have, but what three songs would you say really define the Halloween live experience? Could you narrow it down?
Mm, well, I mean, everybody who knows Halloween knows that we are about speed,
Hmm.
but then at the same time we are able to have great ballads, and we would have great rock songs. And for that, I would say, of course, a song like "Eagle Like Fly Free" is a
Yes.
classic that you must have in a set, which is a typical speedy Halloween song.
Yes.
And then, for instance, "A Tale That Wasn't Right" or "Forever and One" are great ballads who would transport the feeling of our ballads. And of course, I used to say, back in the day when I joined the band and we made a couple of records together, I was like saying like, oh, okay, we're doing these records to play "I Want Out" live, you
Hmm.
know.
Yes.
Because "I Want Out" is like that one hit everybody wants to listen to, you know. And so these would be the three songs I would say make sense to describe what a Helloween show is about.
No, those are great choices. And I agree with you. I think I definitely I love those songs. So many bands now are going with the three guitar approach. Accept is doing it. Maiden has
Mm,
been doing it. Alice
mm,
Cooper recently started it.
mm.
What's Halloween's approach to doing it?
I think it just I don't know about the other bands. I know with Maiden, it's I think Maiden and Halloween have a similarity here because you have like a long stable lineup. Um, um, with Yannick, for instance, that was a long stable lineup Maiden had,
Mhm.
and then when Adrian Smith came back, um, of course they wouldn't fire Yannick because he was part of a stable lineup, you know.
Yes.
And I think the same that was the same reason for us to stay together, you know, like the five of us before Michael and Kai came back. It was just such a successful and stable lineup. We've been family even before those guys came back, you know.
True.
So it just made sense to stick together and see Kai and Michael as a great addition to welcome them back in the band, you know.
I
So
agree.
so there was like no musical reason for that. But in the end, I have to say it's great, and I think maybe other artists figured out that it makes sense. Like with us, we have these twin guitar melodies and stuff, and then every time with two guitar players, when you're playing these, you wouldn't have rhythm guitars underneath, but on the record you would have that, you know.
Yes.
So for live, you have just more energy in those parts. For that, you can easier just split up parts and put more layers of guitars, which we would have on the albums, you know,
Yeah.
would put that on stage. So musically, it makes sense in the end, but that wasn't the reason.
Yeah.
It was
Sometimes
more the personal side, you know.
Yeah, sometimes bands, when you get so many guitar players up on stage, it's just a wall of distortion and noise. What do you
Mm,
guys do to make it sound so significantly poignant and clear?
um, I think it comes down to the style, you know, like um, each one of us has his own sound and style of playing, and yet it isn't too unsimilar. You know, we like Kai, Mikey, and I, we come from the same, almost the same roots when it comes to the guitar. Not maybe musically, like
Mhm.
with bands and stuff, but when it comes down to what kind of guitar players have influenced us, there are similarities. So we have similarities in the playing sometimes, but we have sounds, so we wouldn't play with the same sound on stage. And there you have a great combination, you know. Like for instance, Mike, he's more the vintage guy. He grew up with a lot of 60s and 70s music, and he's into that sound as well. He doesn't play with a lot of distortion. He likes like the old Marshally
Mhm.
plexi sounds, you know, for instance, and with not much drive in there. And then you would have Kai, who has more this very tight and aggressive sounding distortion. And I would say I'm somewhere in the middle, you know.
Yes.
Um, and so these three sounds, I think, are giving everything a great combination, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why it's sounding so well.
You
And
know,
then the layering, how you decide harmonies and stuff, that makes a lot of sense as well, you know, like when not everybody is playing on low notes at the same time and stuff like that. So we're figuring that out, you know.
yeah, that must have been a lot of work to figure all that out, I would imagine.
Yeah, in the beginning it was because we didn't have a plan about that, you know, but then it just came up naturally, and now it's easy going because we already know each other so well.
Yes.
So I can tell what Kai would play in a song that we're rehearsing for the first time. You know, like we it's really easy for us to decide who's playing what.
Right. You know, with three guitar players and one bass player, how many guitars are you taking out on the road? Because it's got to
Oh
be
man,
tremendous volume of guitars.
yeah. Actually, in the last tour, we had a lot of guitars with us. We had like everybody of us had like 4 or 5 guitars with us. But
Wow.
then, because of logistics and costs and all that stuff, we found a very nice technical solution for that. We're now playing these XFX um, effects like preamps and stuff, and
Mhm.
they have like a transpose mode in there because we had different tunings as well.
Yes.
Um, and now we were able to transpose digitally the guitars, and so we are able to play a show with two guitars, 3 guitars max. Like when we're in Europe, we have a truck and everything. We can bring whatever we want, but like with flight shows and overseas, we don't have to do that anymore because we found a solution for that. Yeah,
Technology is amazing, isn't it?
yeah. Nowadays, it really is. It
Yeah.
really is, and you can do a lot of stuff, which makes touring more accessible for a lot of bands.
Yeah, you alluded to her earlier, and I didn't realize it. There was no amps on the stage when I was watching those videos. So is that
Yeah,
all the monitors and the speakers, the house? I don't.
yes, yes, exactly. We played direct. I started it back in I think 2006 or 2007. There was a guitar pedal coming up from Vox. It was called Tone Lab or something, and it sounded amazing. I would put a tube screamer in front of it, and then I would just play direct to the desk, and it worked out very well. And since then, we always try to do stuff like that. And then at some point, I just got tired of like having a big rig in Europe, and then you would fly somewhere else, and you would have like a flight rig which was very small and different sounding. And then at some point, technology just became so good that
Yeah.
you could play anything and it sounds great, and then we would just choose that for all the other tours as well.
Yeah.
So now the new stuff is really good, whatever company you're playing. I mean, in the studio we still are using real amps
Yeah.
because there's still a difference you can hear and feel while you're playing, but for live it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just great, and as I said before, it makes touring so accessible for a lot of bands because you don't have to bring all your amps and back in the day I remember that we had, like when I joined the band, we still had cargo going on. Like you would plan tours um, way earlier, and then you would have like a cargo ship or cargo plane leaving with containers full of equipment, and that
Crazy.
was very expensive and a lot of and very time consuming as well to plan these tours. And nowadays you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Technology's surpassed me with guitar playing. I'm still like an amp, a pedal, and a guitar.
Yeah.
But how do you stay on top of that? Is it, that's, I don't find that fun, to be honest with you. It's like learning. I just want to play guitar
Mm,
really good. Are you like a technical wizard with all this stuff to do all what
Uh, yeah, actually, I'm always keeping up with technology because I'm very interested in I mean, I like amps as well, and I play amps at home, and I like the feeling of when you're hitting a note that it instantly is like coming out of the cabinet. I like that feeling. But I'm also very interested in technology, and I'm amazed by how far it came.
yeah.
What you can do nowadays. So, and it's for me a lot of fun to create sounds and also because I have a different background as well and doing other music than metal as well. So I'm very interested in creating different sounds and so their technology comes very handy. So it's kind of a hobby, I would say, to
Yeah.
test out stuff and for that reason, like Mikey, for instance, he always trusts me. He was always going like, okay, I want to play what you're playing because I don't want to deal. Yeah, he was like, I don't want to deal with this shit. So
That
I'm
would
like
be me. That would
programming
be me.
his sounds. Yeah, so I'm just programming his sounds, and he's using that, and he's happy,
That's
and it
great.
makes life easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any plans to video or record any of these US shows, Canada shows? It would be fantastic to see a really well put together video of this United Forces tour.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I mean, there aren't any plans yet. and right now we're concentrating on the Monsters of Rock tour. But absolutely, since we're not coming to the US very often, that would be great to have some documentary coming up.
Yeah. And how about
Absolutely
a
true.
studio? Anything in any plans to go back to the studio this year?
Oh
Next
no,
year?
not yet. No, not yet. This year we're all about touring. There's a lot of stuff coming up. A few surprises still coming up, which I can't talk about right now. But there are a couple of milestones for the band coming up and this year with touring, and we're concentrating on that. And maybe let's see what's next year is going to bring with studio work.
Great. Well, hopefully we chat again when those surprises come out. If there's something,
Absolutely, yeah,
I
absolutely. We should do that.
would love to do that. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It was such an insightful and fascinating interview, and I wish you guys the best of luck on the road. And I'll see you in New York City.
Oh, thank you very much. See you there.
Bye bye.